Good evening.
Good evening and good afternoon or good morning, depending on the time zone you are calling us in today. At this event organized by the Young Arbitrators Forum of the ICC YAF, which is an organization open to young arbitrators aged 40 and under, responsible for holding hundreds of educational and social events per year and providing young professionals the opportunity to discover the best practices, discuss topical issues of arbitration and other IDR services, and network with experienced practitioners. We would like to talk and present to you the ideas on how we can help and support our colleagues from Ukraine. Now, passing on to Denis Parchajev, Counsel with Mykiyevych, for further introductions. Welcome, Denis.
Thank you. So, hello everyone and welcome to this very important event. And I think it's safe to assume that if you're watching this, you do support Ukraine. And I think it's also safe to assume that if you're watching this, you have already donated or otherwise assisted Ukrainians. And right at the outset, I want to say that this event is not about competing with other initiatives. What we want you to do is we want you to continue help Ukraine in any way you can. But instead of competing with other initiatives, what we wanted to do is we wanted to shed some light on other avenues of helping young Ukrainian lawyers. And what we wanted to focus on in this event are three main things. First of all, we wanted to talk about how you can help and make a tangible impact. Second of all, we wanted to talk about challenges that you may or may not face when providing this assistance. And thirdly, we wanted to talk about the misconceptions that sometimes prevent those who are willing to help from extending the helping hand. And to address all these issues and to talk about the situation, we have gathered amazing speakers who are not only experts in the field of arbitration, but who also are very keenly and actively involved in helping the Ukrainians to find the safe harbor, to find the new opportunities. And we wanted them to share their thoughts and to answer any questions that you have. And speaking about the questions, there's a small housekeeping issue that we should address. As you know, you're watching this event most probably on the YouTube. So if you have any questions, please post them in comments to the YouTube video. And once you do, time permitting, we will address all of those questions at the end of the event. And now to kick things off, and before we go to our first mini panel, I wanted to give floor to Catherine Foster. Catherine Foster has been working with the ICC for the last 15 years, and she's currently managing the global implementation of the ICC Centers for Entrepreneurship initiatives, which are helping the next generation entrepreneurs and SMEs. She will talk more about the initiatives that exist right now to assist Ukraine. Catherine, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Denis, and good afternoon. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to say a few words today. My name is Catherine Foster. I'm the lead of the ICC Center of Entrepreneurship. The International Chamber of Commerce's core mission is to make business work for everyone, every day, everywhere. In 2020, ICC launched the ICC Center of Entrepreneurship to support, prepare, connect, and mobilize the next generation of entrepreneurs and business leaders, enabling people with opportunities to build meaningful livelihoods. The International Chamber of Commerce, with the support of the Ukrainian Chamber of Commerce and ICC Ukraine, has announced recently the launch of the ICC Center of Entrepreneurship for Ukraine. Leveraging on the strength of ICC's global network, including businesses and chambers of commerce, the Center of Entrepreneurship for Ukraine aims to support the survival of Ukrainian SMEs and support refugees. The Center of Entrepreneurship for Ukraine aims to empower displaced people and business owners, with particular emphasis on women and youth, through the creation of economic opportunities. The center will initially be virtual, and we're building an online platform which will feature economic inclusion programs and will also provide a business resource center for businesses, organizations, and chambers of commerce to include their own initiatives to help Ukraine. The center will focus on three key tracks of work: Number one, Restart, which will be focusing on jobs and entrepreneurship. The second is Connect, focusing on resilience and growth. And the third is Fund, focusing on building for the future. Whilst we're still finalizing the strategy and platform for the center, we would like to request your help to, one, highlight for us any programs and trainings which you think would be helpful for the Center of Entrepreneurship for Ukraine, especially programs and trainings for women refugees. And the second is to sign up as a volunteer to help with programs once the platform is launched. We will be including a sign-up section on the platform, and we'll be sharing with you the link as soon as it's available if you would like to become involved. Again, thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak today. And should you wish to contact the team at the ICC Center of Entrepreneurship, please send an email to iccoe@iccwbo.org. Thank you again for giving me the time to speak today.
Thank you very much, Catherine. Now, if anyone has any questions about that, first of all, you can obviously contact Catherine by email, but also we have a pleasure of hosting Olena Perepelynska today, who is actually also involved in this initiative and will be also happy to answer any questions you have. So with that being said, what I wanted to do is I wanted to move to our first mini panel, which consists of two very well-known arbitration practitioners. First of them is Olena Perepelynska, who is a president of the Ukrainian Arbitration Association. She's the member of the ICC International Court of Arbitration and the chair of the ICC Ukraine Arbitration Commission. Since 2003, Olena has been working on multiple cases, as many as 100 arbitration cases, both as counsel and as arbitrator. And she's obviously is intimately familiar with arbitration rules of major arbitral institutions such as the ICC, LCA, and others. More importantly, over the last decade, in addition to her very busy schedule of working at the law firm, she has been helping the young Ukrainians, and not only Ukrainians, to learn more about arbitration and to foster their careers. Many of you will know her initiative, which is called the so-called Ukrainian Arbitration Academy, which has been running for years. And that's been very helpful. And it has always generated a lot of praise on the international level. But right now, of course, she helps out in different ways, in more meaningful ways. And I think, at least in my opinion, she's the #1 person when it comes to the questions of helping Ukrainian lawyers to get internships, to get secondments, and to give them other assistance. Together with Olena, we have other very distinguished and excellent arbitration practitioner, who is Galina Zukova. Now, Galina is well known in Baltics and very well loved because she's an excellent practitioner and an excellent expert. She also has some 20 years of experience in arbitration. Before founding her our own law firm in 2019, Galina has been working as a partner at the local boutique law firm in Paris. But before that, she was actually working as counsel at the ICC, where she was in charge of the case management team handling matters involving parties from Central and Eastern Europe, Turkey, and Greece. She's also an associate professor at the University of Versailles, and closer to my heart, she's also has a very distinguished role in the Riga Graduate School of Law. Galina is also actively involved in providing support and help to young Ukrainian lawyers. And we cannot wait to hear from Olena and Galina about their initiatives and their thoughts on the topic. The floor is yours.
Well, I guess I will start. Denis, thank you for a very kind introduction. And I will start, since this was, like your instruction to us in the beginning, order in which we should speak. So I was asked to speak about basically framing the issue, and let me just give you some ideas, trying to frame the issue. What is the problem right now? So the war has started, and obviously there's a lot of people who are displaced. We were displaced outside of a country like Ukraine, or outside, very often the capital, Kyiv, and the other cities. But again, the arbitration practice very often it's located in Kyiv, though we also have our colleagues and friends who are located in Lviv and some other cities. So what were the issues here? The issues, obviously, for Ukrainian legal businesses in general, this was also one of my thinking, how people can run their business right now, and probably as people think, what will happen to my business? And then there are individual worries, where should I live? How should I run my life? Because for many of these people, if we speak about survival for the next few months, let's say 3 months, it's not a problem to survive somewhere in a foreign country, especially given that a lot of people in the West, East and West, I would say, are so open right now, and they open their doors, so housing, option-wise is for free. But then there are obvious questions, what I will do in 6 months' time, when my pillow is exhausted, or how should I, reinvent myself after this, few months, whether I will become able to come back to Ukraine, or what my career should look like. So these concerns, I think business concerns and individual concerns, which we should keep in mind and try to understand. So, so I already divided business and individual. So on individual level, I think we can speak also about different levels of seniority. So we have young graduates, people who graduate right now or have recently graduated, what to do with these people, how can we help them? And then there's associates, be those young associate or senior associate / counsel who have already a number of years of experience. Who also have already, their lives, their lives in meaning that they have their families, often kids, connections, maybe having established their families in the home country, so they think also what to do. And then there are obviously partners in the law firms or people who run their own legal business, and so also what to do with my business and how to evolve or how to reorient my business in the future, because if I am outside the home country for the next, I don't know, even for a year, even more than 6 months, I think, or several years, then obviously I have to do something else. So these are the concerns. What else here is to say, when we think about displaced on the West, the location of these people. Right, some people were displaced in Poland to somewhere in France. Some of them to Brazil, to Mexico, to Guatemala, to the Dominican Republic. I heard cases as far as that. But some people stayed in Ukraine. Right, so these are also categories we have to keep in mind. What is the positive impact of COVID in this respect is that we all learned to work remotely, and I think for many law firms, this is not really an issue when the person, if you think you can help hire that person for some time, and times always with individual negotiations. I think we have to be open to opportunities to work both in person and remotely. When we speak about remote work, I think we cannot omit thinking about our male colleagues, because a lot of male colleagues, we simply cannot leave Ukraine. So this is kind of a special category. But with this, I also don't want to, to say also, a few words maybe about women, our colleagues, and Olena is one of them, let's just be clear about it, right? The women who don't want to leave their men. That's it, I don't leave my family behind. So we have these people there, and we have to think about their needs and how can we help these people. What else, just thinking about different elements which come into our discussion. Practice area. Obviously, in this call, we have most of the people who are one way or another connected to international arbitration, or maybe people who are willing to get international arbitration. And I have to say that probably our area is one of the most receptive ones in order to find at least temporary employment opportunities for these people. Exactly, because people who are interested in this area by default, these are people who have, like good skills, like either practical skills or practice and theory, like maybe only theory if they're just from the university. But these are people who also normally very fluent in foreign languages, first of all, English. So I think like this is easier for us to accommodate these people. It becomes more trickier, but again, trickier but not impossible to give our hand to people coming from pure national law areas, so to say. Like some people have a very extensive corporate law experience, like, but advising pure Ukrainian colleagues, like doing litigation with Ukrainian courts, but then it might be more difficult to apply the skills in the foreign country, just because, like we can't go to court and plead in Ukrainian somewhere else, right? And this would be the same for people from Lithuania, Latvia, and so on and so forth. But again, I think it's possible, to help those people as well. So my message here is, I think like where there is a will, there's a way. Right? Important thing is to be willing to help, and then we'll find opportunities to help. But that also requires a pragmatic approach of both sides, both who are willing to help and both who are in need of help, right? I mean, we don't have to be modest about willing to be helping, and we also don't have to be modest about saying, I need help in this respect, right? But then we have to understand what I can offer, both of what I can offer if I'm an employer, potential employer, what I can offer financially, or maybe other opportunities, growth, career growth, and so on. From Ukrainian side, also, what can I offer in terms of skills? And also, I think we have to be pragmatic and realistic in terms of expectations, right? What I can expect from a new employee, and what I can, what use I can give to my employees. But again, I think like with this pragmatic attitude to life, there are opportunities to help. We do help. We do offer temporary employment opportunities. I think at this point of time, we still have to speak about temporary employment opportunities, because if I speak on my own behalf, for me, it's clear that one day, we don't know when this day will come, but the war will be over and Ukraine will be in dear need of its lawyers being back and working for Ukrainian legal market, right? So these people will be needed back. So it's not about permanent employment in our foreign jurisdictions. It's temporary aid, and I think we can do it, and we should do it. And with this, I think a message of goodwill and finding ways when there is goodwill, I will pass the floor to Olena, as we worked on some projects together in this respect.
Thank you, Galina, very much for this presentation, and thank you, Denis, for your kind introduction. Indeed, the idea of secondment as a way to help Ukrainian legal business, I think, as all genial ideas, they came to the mind of different people simultaneously, and the offer or the idea of helping Ukrainian lawyers in such way came to my attention from several sources in a very short period of time, somewhere in the beginning of March. Those person and the firm of Alicja were one of the first to contact us with this offer, with this kind of offer to help, and this hand of help to Ukrainian legal business. And looking at this opportunity more closely, it's quite clear that this solution allows to actually to solve several problems. Some of them were described by Galina, but looking at that from the Ukrainian law firm perspective, so Ukrainian law firms do not want to lose their teams. Even if we are almost all displaced, we all hope to come back to our home city one day or another, and we all hope to work in Ukraine and for the benefit of Ukraine, and we are quite sure that we all do that, and that we will win soon, and we will have this opportunity soon. But the reality is more difficult, more complex, and more diverse, so to say. And indeed, we are now in different places. And the offer of secondment is actually helping Ukrainian law firms to save their teams while simultaneously having less financial burden. Because again, you could all imagine that in the war times, the amount of client work is a bit different here, as well as the incoming cash flow, even from those clients who are in need of our advice, especially if these are Ukrainian clients. And that is why, and again, so we don't have the amount of work we had before the war. And with some financial pillow, the situation is different from firm to firm, but the secondment actually helps to solve both problems while keeping the team as it was in the beginning. There are several issues connected with that because, again, once our lawyer starting working in other law firms, there is a risk that they would be so good and that other law firms would like them and could make an offer in the end of the day to stay with that law firm. And that is why, of course, we need a kind of non-solicitation agreement or whatever you could call it, but we indeed would need to have our lawyers back, and we prefer to keep our ties, legal and personal contacts with our lawyers during this secondment process. And sometimes some law firms, Ukrainian law firms, even prefer to have part-time secondment to have some time of their lawyers reserved for Ukrainian clients' needs. Another problem is a long bureaucratic procedure sometimes applicable in some law firms. Again, the situation is quite different depending on the type or form of legal business abroad, because we have seen the help of boutique law firms, big law firms, barristers, law professors, sole arbitrators. So there is a variety of different person wishing and willing to help Ukrainians. And the formal procedures of secondment or internship could be quite different. So for small format, so boutique law firms or sole practitioners, this is quite flexible and fast track procedure. With the big law firms, it's a bit different because they had, even before the war, they had their own procedures in place. These procedures were developed during a long period of time, and these procedures are time-consuming, and again, they are not flexible. Just to give you an example, so the first offer, it was called internship. I discussed with one of the international law firms was, okay, this is only offline, using laptop of our law firm and all the technical facilities of our law firm, with some like duration about 1 year, and some other conditions. And almost each piece of this was problematic because the secondee candidate was in another jurisdiction with her family members, without possibility to move physically to France or to London or whatever seat would be, because of this family and personal and other type of issues, and even with taking into account financial issue, because if you choose one of the arbitration centers, they are not cheap to live in. And this is like another aspect. And for Ukrainian refugees or displaced persons, this all matters as well. Yeah, so offline was a problem even for female candidates. Then again, duration is not always acceptable as a kind of, well, like 1 year, because many Ukrainians do not want to commit for such a long period of time. They all wish to come back, not all, but I would say over 80% of Ukrainians, they wish to come back to their home country and to work there. So such something even difficult to think of. Then again, this poses other types of problems, because if it's full-time, it's normally means that this person should not be employed in a Ukrainian law firm. And this is again, goes against those basic principles and the idea help Ukrainian law firms need. So, but the good news is that this all could be discussed, and if the law firm is really willing to help, it might reconsider its standard procedures and make some exceptions. And actually, I'm very happy that many law firms decided, and Ukraine is indeed an exceptional situation. And this means that they could and should make
Okay, I think the connection is breaking up just a little bit because Olena is actually speaking from Ukraine.
Okay.
Sorry for that. We did not hear the last 30 seconds of what you said.
Okay, sorry for that. I probably have some unstable internet, sorry. So the idea is that if a big law firm has some inflexible procedures, it is really good when they are ready to reconsider them and to make some exceptions in order to facilitate and speed up decision-making process and actually taking launching the secondment with Ukrainian lawyers. And we are quite thankful for those who have already done. Invite all those who just now consider helping Ukrainian lawyers in that way to have some sort of exceptional procedure just for that category of cases, to make it prompt without further formalities and bureaucracy. As I already mentioned, duration of internship is a very delicate issue. That might depend on some standard terms and conditions applicable in that particular law firm. But it could be as well discussed here. I think as a matter of quite pragmatic approach, I think the long-term commitment is not really good option, but something like from 3 to 6 months with the possibility of another extension, that would be a good option, I think, and quite comfortable for all those involved. And again, mixed format of online, offline, if offline is possible in that particular situation, is also a plus, because again, people are moving around, and even if they start in online, they could move in offline and vice versa. And I think it's good to keep this mixed way of cooperation. And last but not least, the payment arrangement. Again, this could be an interesting and problematic issue, because it would raise many issues like employment, taxation, foreign currency regulation for Ukrainian lawyers, etc., etc. So what kind of agreement or payment arrangement could be agreed upon? I think the easiest way is less formalistic, but indeed in terms of payment only, the easiest way is to have an agreement between two law firms, if we're talking about, or those the person accepting the services of a secondary lawyer and the Ukrainian law firm. And the payment could be actually structured as a legal services rendered by Ukrainian law firm to another law firm or law practitioner. And Ukrainian law firm would then pay salary to the Ukrainian, to its Ukrainian employee, using the money of that fee paid by the foreign law firm. Again, I think this could work with the majority of partners, so to call them. Yeah, so this could work as from my experience with law firms, with barristers, with law professors. So this all works, and this, I think, allows to simplify many issues on both ends, and to keep the formalities to minimum. Another, but again, if it's less flexible, and the lawyers could or should work offline with like full employment or full-time secondment. Sometimes it's structured as a salary paid somewhere there in foreign jurisdictions, but this again involves some issues with banking details, with registration of that person in proper local authorities, etc., etc. So there are a number of issues to be decided, and sometimes they would require more time. While with my first general option, this could be launched just in a day or two, depending on the speed of accepting law firm, so to say. And so what else I could mention? The general message is when someone really wishes to help, then the proper solution could be found. I think all the Ukrainian law firms are quite flexible in that sense as well, and they are not stick to some formal procedures. Again, I think all of them are open to discuss various options and to find a comfortable solution. So don't be afraid of difficulties. There are always ways to overcome them. And thank you for helping Ukrainians in these difficult times.
Thank you, Olena. So we've heard from our excellent practitioners, and I have questions, but I'll keep them for the end of our discussion. But we now have a panel of who I want to see as more of academics. Both of our next two speakers wear multiple hats, but I will address both of them as academics. And the first of them is Patricia Shaughnessy. And Patricia is a professor at the Stockholm University, where she pretty much founded the master's program for international commercial arbitration. Before, in her previous life, before becoming an academic, Patricia has actually practiced law in the US for some 10 years. And she even worked in the Supreme Court, if the data that I saw on the internet is correct, but not as a judge, but as a judicial fellow. But nonetheless, she is very well versed both in law, and she's very well respected in academia. And helping her out is my excellent ICC YAF representative and co-moderator for this event, who's Alicja Zielińska-Eisen, who is an off-counsel at Curitius. And she is obviously an advocate, and she's a practitioner, but she also has a second hat as the academic. And when wearing that hat, she's actually the academic coordinator for International Dispute Resolution LLM at the University of Humboldt in Germany. So without taking any more of everyone's time, I will give the floor to them.
Thank you very much, Denis, for the kind introduction, and thank you to Galina and Olena for the fantastic first session. I also do have some questions, so let's keep them for later. Now, Patricia, back to us. I do remember very clearly one very late evening, late in February, when after a full day of scrolling the news about Russian war in Ukraine, and addressing and calling my Ukrainian students and lecturers and just feeling entirely helpless, I picked up the phone and it was you saying that maybe we should get some mutis, participants in the VIS moot court, that's how we know each other, out of the harm's way, and place them in internship so that they can continue their VIS moot court journey. That's how our safe harbor for Ukrainian mutis has started and has been developing ever since. Over the last month, we secured internship packages and placed 49 students already in one of the EU jurisdiction. We do establish the safe harbors by now in Stockholm as the primary residence of the safe harbors, Warsaw, Düsseldorf, Berlin, Frankfurt, Milan, Florence, Prague, and Vienna. And I hope I'm not missing anyone, but this initiative has this snowball effect all over. And this 49 candidates come out of participants come out of more than 250 applications that we have received so far. So as we say, safe harbors forever, but hopefully there will be no need soon for that initiatives. But Patricia, would you like to describe a little bit more about the aims of the Safe Harbor and who is it addressed to and how it actually works?
Thank you, Alicia. Well, the core of the idea and the core indeed of the project is that we would be helping students to replace the disruption in their legal education with an internship at a law firm that would provide a supporting environment for them to be able to continue to learn both professional skills and in the practice of law and be part of a collegial group working together. And so the idea of the safe harbors is not merely to put the students in a place where they are safe, but all alone and not doing anything meaningful. So the cooperation that we have with our very trusted, selected hosting law firms is key and central to the whole project, because it gives the students this supportive environment. It gives them an opportunity to learn things, to network, and to bring important new meaning to what their life is.
And when addressing this issue, we focus primarily on students participating in the international moot courts. And aside from the obvious that this basically is a testament to their language skills and their capacity to work in English language, what are other goals that the Safe Harbors try to achieve by kind of addressing this, this invitation to this narrow group of law students, basically?
Well, first of all, we obviously can't help everyone. We both have full-time jobs, and we have a couple of assistants who have full-time jobs, and then we have a lot of helpers in different jurisdictions who volunteer. And so we need to have an identifiable group. And the Moody group, and we use a wide definition, that can be the Jessup Cup, it can be the VEAS, it can be the FDI, it can be the Jackson WTO, it can be any number of Mootings. That means that these are girls and guys, but primarily, of course, we're working on bringing girls out of Ukraine since the males need to stay in Ukraine. This is a group that have evidenced a desire to be more internationally engaged, to be more active in extracurricular activities, to be interested in looking at the practice of law. And as you mentioned, that because of their ability to work in English, it can become a worthwhile experience for both the students and for the hosting law firms. So that provides a relatively limited group, but one that's workable for us.
Mm-hmm. And when talking about the law firms and the hosting law firms, it feels like we are on the same team. However, our roles are different. So can you please describe what is it needed from the hosting law firms specifically, and what is our role in the process?
Well, this has been a project that has evolved from the first day. So we started with an idea and a willingness and wanting to help in an urgent to help to get these students into the safe harbors as soon as possible. So as we've worked, we've realized that the original idea of trying to put together different aspects, the accommodations, the donations for living stipend, the internship, was not particularly efficient way to work. So now we really work closely with our partner law firms, and we ask them to provide a package so that they take care of those things. And we encourage them to have direct dialogue with the student as early as possible. But we do link together and we're working on ways in which to even create stronger network among our hosting law firms across different cities so that they can share experiences. And when the internships are over, they may be some cases extended, but even though, as Olena pointed out, many students are hoping that they will soon return to Ukraine. Many are continuing their studies remotely. There is a very good chance that they're going to continue to need some assistance after the 3-month internship. So we're already looking at our trusted law firm network to help identify and provide ongoing solutions so that we don't just bring them to a safe harbor and then leave them standing there after a certain period of time. So we're already looking forward, and we welcome any input and help in doing so.
And what are some of the key concerns that the hosting law firm have? Or what are the key concerns but for the duration of the internship and the possibility to go back basically home as soon as possible for our students?
Well, I think that many of the firms have a concern that they want to be sure that the students are actually registered under the EU directive, which has been implemented in EU countries for displaced person status, which gives them work permits, residence permits, and access to medical care. So in some jurisdictions, such as Germany and in Sweden, it's gone very quickly. In less than 2 weeks from a digital registration, they have those permits. In a couple of other jurisdictions, I won't name which, it seems to go very slowly. And some law firms are concerned about having the interns in the law firm actually doing work and receiving a payment without the permits. Other law firms are willing to find workarounds to doing that. So that's something that we need to take into consideration. And we hope that those jurisdictions which have been slow to efficiently implement the directive will be picking up steam.
That's true. So what's next? What's the plan?
What's next is we probably, maybe, I guess, Alicia, we very much recognize that we're a limited initiative and that we're working closely, that we also are very concerned about the supportive environment for the students, and so that they can look forward to a future and be able to make plans. And we're also very aware that they're in a very stressed situation with the ongoing war and such. And so we're also working very much on ensuring that they have access to any kind of support that they might need for their own well-being, apart from the support of it in law firm activities. But I think that so far the cooperation between the firms and the interns has worked remarkably well. And we've had so many people in our community, from partners of law firms to Moody's, who have done everything they can, from taking people into their homes, picking people up with a car and driving them someplace, providing them with accommodations, the work environments. It's just been, I'm so proud of our community. It's really been stepping up. And I hope that we'll see that this community steps up, even for the practicing lawyers that we're addressing today.
Exactly. And with that, I will turn back to Denis so that we can get back and talk a little bit more about the secondments and the practicing lawyers rather than our law students, who are, of course, not left alone, and we do our best to help them any way we can.
Perfect.
Thank you. And I can say they just won. I'm at the Beast Mood in Vienna, the final. Alicia was here when it started with them. We have 21 Moody's that are part of our safe harbor, and their coaches here. We have a law firm woman now that financed them to come here, and they just were given the Spirit of the Moot Award. They were off on stage, and they got a standing ovation for probably 5 minutes, and a lot of tears shed.
Yes. And also they had an amazing, very moving movie shown at the opening, which I believe is also available online. If someone haven't seen it, you should, because this are just amazingly strong and fantastic people. Like, you want such an intern, just grab them. So please do go online and watch this movie, because it's just, I don't know, it's absolutely moving. Fantastic.
It is. It is.
Thank you very much. Now, we've heard from our practitioners, we've heard from our academics, and now let's move to hear more from the young and talented lawyers. And to give that perspective, we have an excellent speaker for you, who is Nadiya Mykiyevych. And Nadiya, over the last 7 years, she's been working on some of the very well-known arbitration cases, both investment and commercial. In parallel to that, she managed to graduate and receive LLM from Queen Mary University of London, and not only to graduate.
I'm still on. I'm off to the airport. I just finished talking. Thank you for everything.
We have some technical glitches here. If 1 second.
Where's out of here? to exit.
So apologies for the background sound. I'm hoping that our administrator will, the administrator of the Zoom call will be able to mute. Patricia, yes, there we go. Thank you very much. So back to our topic. So what I was saying is that we've heard from both the academics and the practitioners, and now we want to hear from the perspective of the young and talented lawyer. And I said that Nadiya has graduated from and received LLM from the Queen Mary University of London. And not only that she graduated, she received full scholarship, which is an achievement on its own. And since then, she's been interning with the LCAA in London, and now she's working as an associate in integrities in Ukraine. And in addition to that, she was very fortunate to actually also receive a secondment abroad. And we want to hear more from her about, first of all, what are the needs of the young practitioners? And also, what are the challenges? And the reason that she knows about these things is that she was actively and keenly involved also in the Safe Harbor initiative. And she's been actively helping to get a lot of Ukrainian students and lawyers out of the harm's way. And without further ado, I want to give the floor to her. Nadiya, please go ahead.
Thank you, Denis, and thank you to all the wonderful ladies on this panel. It's been 50 days of war in Ukraine today, and I don't think any of us had anticipated it to go on for so long, maybe a bit naively, but again, at the beginning, we did not see it taking that much time. Legal community has been helpful right from the beginning. From the first days of war, we know friends from law firms around the world opening the doors to their homes, hosting Ukrainian refugees, law firms donating money, doing, helping charities. A lot of lawyers worked with their clients to ensure that necessary equipment and medicine are provided to Ukraine. So this help has been incredible, and we are all extremely grateful for that. But what we are now asking our lawyers who are colleagues in foreign jurisdictions is to provide longer-term help for the employees, the lawyers in Ukraine. From the beginning of war, many lawyers switched to becoming volunteers. Some of our colleagues in Ukraine actually, they joined the military forces. Some are driving around Ukraine, helping with humanitarian aid. Lawyers switched to doing a lot of pro bono hours, helping those internally and externally displaced. Some retained sole breadwinners in their families because their partners or their parents might have lost a source of income. So those lawyers are the only person who is now responsible for providing financial assistance. So with this event, we are asking you to paraphrase the famous saying is to not give the fish, but to give the fishing rod, and to help those young lawyers who are in need of going on with their life and in need of helping their families, to give them an opportunity to work and to apply their skills, which is what they do best. And in this presentation, we focused on two separate groups, students and younger lawyers. Well, not necessarily younger in age, as this young lawyer group can include quite a varied amount of age groups. But those two groups are very similar to some extent. I mean, students and established lawyers, but there are still some differences. So Patricia and Alicia, they have been incredible, and the initiative, the Safe Harbor for Moody's, it's entirely their child. They've done incredible things with it. The outreach it had, the number of law firms willing to help. It's just amazing what those ladies managed to accomplish. My modest contribution was that I was often a first talking point with Ukrainian students. So when you call one of the applicants who applied for the program, you never know what you're going to hear on the other end of the call. It might be a female student who's already in Western Ukraine, who's originally from there and who's living with their family, who's living with her family and who's safe and who's in no rush to leave the country. Or you might call someone in an occupied city who doesn't know how to leave the territory, who doesn't know, it's not safe to drive, and who doesn't know how to, evacuate. Or it might be someone who's been on the road for a couple of days, traveling around Ukraine without a place to stay and not knowing where to move on. So all of these considerations needed to be taken into account, and all of those situations were very individual, and the approach to handling each student's case was very different. Importantly, the students are normally quite young in Ukraine, so they are from 17 to 22 years old. There are a lot of concerns their parents have about letting them go abroad by themselves. Some of them have very limited experience of traveling alone. A lot of them, while they know English, they might not know the local languages, so they might have some worries about going to other countries. For example, we've had students being really worried about going to Stockholm, saying, "Well, I don't speak Swedish." I know a lot of lawyers in Sweden who also don't speak Swedish, so that was a way to console them. And of course, the students normally they don't have previous job, they don't have any resources, so they need to either depend on their families, and the financial situations might differ. But of course, we wanted to ensure that those girls are safe and those girls are taken care of, and they don't feel like they are in need of the immediate that they are helped when they need the help. For younger students, one of the things was the safe harbor for mutis, which was sort of non-negotiable with law firms, is to help them in housing, because it's very big pressure under, to any student to travel to a foreign country and find housing. And especially for someone who's going from a country who's escaping war, finding a location, finding an apartment in an unknown city is a big stress. So we didn't want them to go through that. So this kind of assistance is always required for students. When we talk about younger lawyers, a lot of whom have dislocated to another countries, it's a little bit easier in that regard, because we are older and we know how to deal with problems like that. We are more independent. We can, find the resources and go view apartments on our own. So this is much easier, and this is probably less work for the law firms, and less assistance is needed in this regard. But for lawyers who have already had a couple of years of experience, oftentimes it's a little bit more difficult in terms of what's going to happen with their job back in Ukraine. Everyone is unsure. So the offer of secondment is this sort of helping hand, but at the same time, a lot of questions arise. No one wants to, as my colleagues have rightly pointed out, no one wants to take a long commitment. They don't know how it's going to end. No one wants to wait for months for their documents to kick in, especially if we're talking about women who left, women who have children. So we have cases, when people moved and they wait for months for documents to be processed, while their kids need to be put into kindergartens, into schools, and that takes quite a lot of time. So my advice to law firms would be to consider all of those issues, and if there is a chance to help speed up this process with documents, or to somehow engage the lawyers before they receive all of the authorizations, that would be a big help. Another thing is about distant internships. For more experienced lawyers, it's much easier to do than for younger students who've never had experience in law firms, because we've been working like that for years now. So it's not that big of a difference, honestly. Starting to work with a new team using Zoom, Skype, or other means of communication. We are lucky here in the arbitration world because our careers are not that much tied to national jurisdictions, and pretty much all of us have at some point been involved in cases where the law applicable was not the one that we are particularly qualified in. But there are a lot of other areas of law and a lot of other lawyers in Ukraine who are in a bit of practicing in different spheres. It might be more difficult for them to find offers for secondment, but I would encourage law firms to also look at those colleagues from different spheres of law. People who have been working for some years, they definitely have good skills. A lot of lawyers have good English. A lot of lawyers in Ukraine received LLMs from foreign universities. So even though they practiced in Ukrainian jurisdiction, they still can be a good asset because they have some years of experience, which would definitely benefit a law firm. I would also point out that it's important to be clear with the expectations, as Galina, I believe, mentioned before, what you expect from a lawyer. And again, if a law firm treats it as charity, which partially it is charity because you're helping someone who needs this help. But also, I think it's important to point out that lawyers want to do the job and they know how to do the job. So it's important to define those things, to not make any lawyer you take as your secondee or intern to feel like, you're just doing this for a charity and not valuing their contribution, or you're not thinking that they are a valuable asset to the company. So that's also important. These are some emotional intelligence points that should be taken into consideration when you want to help a Ukrainian lawyer. So I would definitely encourage everyone to reach out to their Ukrainian colleagues. If you have offers, I would encourage you to reach out to your clients as well, because some of the companies take secondees, take interns in-house and spread this information. From pragmatic point of view, Ukraine is going to have a lot of work when the war is over. A lot of law firms will want to get into this market and get the part of the disputes, and definitely there's going to be a lot of disputes in all different spheres, a lot of work in other practices of law. If you now build connections with Ukrainian lawyers who are willing to go back to their jurisdiction, you will need Ukrainian counsel on hand in those cases in the future. So that's a good chance to build close personal connections with Ukrainian lawyers, and hopefully very soon to have a great chance to work together in future.
Thank you. Now, as a first point of contact, what are some of the questions, some of the most frequently asked questions that you receive, both from students or from older and more experienced practitioners?
I can answer the question for students, since I've been in contact with quite a lot of them. So people who are in the first weeks of war, people who were running away from from towns that have been under fire, they did not really care which kind of internship they're gonna get or which city they want to go. They were mostly like, just give me something, just make sure I'm safe. Whatever you're going to offer, I'm going to be happy with it. So that was, the initial way. And they were very concerned about, am I going to have a place to live? Am I going to, what's expected of me? I don't know the language. I don't know. I've never worked in a law firm. So these were very normal concerns for younger students. For older, for lawyers that I've been in contact with who have been receiving secondments now, the most questions actually concern, how my contract is going to be scheduled. What's the time contribution? Is it full time? Is it, how the remuneration is going to work? Should I pay taxes in foreign jurisdiction, or if I'm paid in Ukraine, should I, So these are more pragmatic things that older lawyers are concerned with. But also, again, it's probably the age difference, and also the thing that enough time has passed now, so it's a little bit easier to see how things can go on from now on at this point than it was months ago, for example.
Yeah, and now that the initiative has been running for some time, do you think that, you know, there's some kind of help that is needed the most, or would you say still every kind of help is welcome and we need as much help as possible?
Is
a
it
question to Nadiya
yes.
or to everyone?
Well, I think let's start with Nadiya, and then maybe everyone else can pick up.
I think at this point, maybe Alicia would correct me if I'm wrong, but the offer from law firms has been bigger than actually the number of student interns we, for example, had. But then again, I'm not sure. So maybe it can be better addressed by Olena. How is the demand from foreign law firms and foreign companies for secondees? Because that can be, you know, slightly different. I think that it's important to encourage others. It's important to serve by example, whether you want to be very public with it, or you just, or you're not comfortable with it for some reasons. But I think it's still important to bring light to those initiatives, because there's still a lot of people who need help.
I could only add that indeed, I see more and more law firms or arbitration practitioners interested in this initiative. I mean, not in Ukraine, I mean abroad. And this is a wonderful development. I hope that our today's event would also help to dispel some doubts and to give some ideas to those who really wish to help to Ukrainian lawyers and students. And I am sure that there is still a big room to do that. And I also would like to comment what Nadiya just said. It's not really a kind of charity exercise. I think, especially if we're talking about arbitration and dispute resolution in general. So I think it could work as a win-win situation, because it's not just giving money for nothing. So I expect Ukrainian lawyers would provide a good product for the receiving law firms, and the receiving law firms would receive this product for a very competitive price, so to say. And even if this product is not related to Ukraine, as again, arbitration is very international practice, and you do not need to be qualified in applicable law in any case. And that is why I think that it's an interesting option, but they having a side effect of helping Ukrainian law firms in general in these difficult times. Additional way to help Ukrainian arbitration practitioners, but this is more about senior arbitration practitioners, is to consider them when you looking for an arbitrator in your case. And this is just another way to look at the list of candidates and to consider Ukrainian candidates in your long listed list. And Ukrainian Arbitration Association has recently launched a media project profiling Ukrainian arbitration practitioners in its LinkedIn and Facebook pages to give them more visibility and to raise awareness of Ukrainian and foreign parties and law firms about potential candidates from Ukraine, because this would also help. Again, this is not charity, it's just a kind of cooperation which could be like win-win for both parties. Because again, in Ukraine, we have many experienced, talented arbitration practitioners with a huge experience, both as counsel and arbitrators. And I understand that probably Ukrainian arbitrators at jurisdiction in general, Ukraine is not the first place you would look at. But this is actually a message that you need to look at first and then to decide. What I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Perhaps I will pick up on this point as well, because Denis, you're asking, like what kind of questions people ask when they approach you. And I speak less with Ukrainian students, I speak, for example, like my contact are mostly, like partners in the law firms. Sometimes I know their associates, sometimes I don't know their associate. So it's discussing, like, so how to reorient my business, like how to ensure that my business runs, because these people, they have obligations and, like moral duty, including before in front of their people, like I employ them and I want them to keep safe, like to give them the team and so on and so forth. But it's also a matter of survival, right? So it's like a battle on several fronts. So this is when people say, like if you have any client work we can do together, please keep me in mind. Like if there's like any consultancy needed, please keep me in mind. And indeed, as Olena has said, if there's any possibility of arbitral appointment, please consider me as a possible nominee. And again, like Olena has mentioned what the initiative of the Ukrainian Arbitration Association, but these profiles are published. And like I saw also with some arbitration institutions that now these calls are heard. Like of course it's not, like again, let's be pragmatic, let's be very realistic. It's not a panacea, but we'll be appointing in every single case a Ukrainian. I mean, let's be realistic about it, because lawyers will also have responsibilities before their clients, and sometimes it's difficult to propose someone whom we don't know personally, like with whom we didn't work before. So it's an effort, right? It's an effort, but at the same time, like once you speak about people's experience, about people's like experience, and then sometimes like I ask people, like send me information about how many cases you sent as an arbitrator. And when I was able to provide this input at one meeting, and so like we speak about this person, but actually I know that he or she sent so many cases at least. So then it's something realistic, right? When you speak about numbers, when you speak about experience, and so on and so forth. So this is kind of help what people need. And when like for the associates, it's a question, okay, how this associate, be that a junior associate or whatever, mid-level, senior associate can help me. And again, for now, we're speaking about help, like a commitment for a few months, right? So for a few months, people do put this associate in their cases. Like I'm especially in contact with people again, who act as arbitrators, so they immediately put these people on cases. Like sometimes it's writing a procedural history of a case, like having a look at the parties' submissions and preparing a first draft of the parties' positions. Then of course it's subject to review, but nonetheless, like inform these people. In my case, I took the person also to the CMC case management conference, and everybody, like in the case, of course, I had to ask for parties' permission, and the reaction was very positive, saying yes, of course. So this is also, like the way you spread the word, because sometimes you can bring these people to the regions which perhaps are less exposed to the Ukrainian crisis, so to say, right? I mean, of course, Poland is, Germany is, Austria is, like the entire Eastern Europe, but somewhere in Latin America it's pretty remote. So if you bring this person in, it also brings the issue closer to its people, like so those people can be aware better of the problem and be in a position to consider, like assisting the legal market. And again, do not forget about like all the research we have to do, all the writing we have to do, and very often, like we're busy with so many things, so we just don't have time for those things to do. So I think this is also an opportunity to say, okay, prepare me research on this issue. I have to dig bigger on this, like I'm solicited to speak at a particular event. Please prepare me, find me the recent publications on these areas of research. So, you keep people busy, right? And it gives an immense satisfaction. And once again, I think it's very important to spread this information, right? And we can be modest about spreading information about our things we do maybe well. which probably is not always a good thing. But I think once information that you have in modern Ukrainian, like second year, you have taken second year, that's all possible combinations. Once you disseminate this information, you have an immediate feedback, right? You see either similar posts saying we offer these kind of opportunities, and you, as Alicja has said, like this is a snowball effect, right? It's just other people say like we can do the same. In my case, some people reached out to me and said like we saw that you have done something. Can we discuss how did you do it? Like, and logistically how this can be done. Like, so we come to these matters which Alona has raised. So you discuss this issue, and suddenly it becomes something very very tangible, right? And then you reach out to people, you arrange meetings, and something comes out of it. And I think this is a very satisfactory feeling when you feel like even if you helped only one person, it's already a lot, right? And if each of us will help only one person, it will be very much, it will like really a lot. Thank you.
I have another question, and this one's about the male practitioners who are in Ukraine right now, who cannot leave. It is my understanding that there's still interest in that group to get those secondments and internships. Now, let's start with Nadiya. Have you seen an interest from that kind of group? And have you seen any assistance from the foreign law firms to male lawyers, students?
When we opened the application originally for students, we've been quite ambiguous in description. So we put, the reservation, be aware of requirements for men and, the rules on crossing the border, so that, we couldn't right away say, we can't help you, because what if the law changes tomorrow? And, we are actually able to help those male students to cross into Europe. But this has not happened so far. So we've had great interest from Ukrainian male students, but unfortunately, we would not be able to assist them into going abroad. So that's a problem. But one thing that could be done for them is actually offering them virtual internships. Some law firms, I believe, again, maybe Alicja can be a better source of information on that, but some law firms I've heard might be a bit reluctant of offering internships to male students for some reasons. So if Alicja wants to cover this.
Yeah, I think the concern that was raised is twofold. So first of all, we did have some inquiries from male students that were seeking also help in actually crossing the borders. And that's where the law firm felt that probably there are limits to what we can do, because that called very close to a public policy issue. So a law firm which will aid a male that is supposed to stay in Ukraine probably could raise a question mark. So that was a territory that we didn't want to even enter. These are very delicate issues, and I don't think we are placed to decide. I think this is a very personal decision for the male student, how he wants to approach this, but it's not our role to take a stand here. So with that being left to the unfortunate, very difficult decision to be made by the male students that are staying in the country, we were fortunate to get some offers to provide for online internships, and especially tailored to students. So if we take under consideration that some of the universities did open the courses now for the students, they have very varied workload, and also we need to give them sufficient space and flexibility on how we structure the internship so that they can actually do contribute, but at the same time keep their families safe in Ukraine. This is like a very much uncharted territory also for the law firms offering the help, as well as to the students who are placed in this unimaginable situation to need to make that choices. And already during these moot court pleadings, we had students pleading while the bomb alarms were on and needed to evacuate to shelters. I don't even know where to start commenting on that. So this is a situation that we are not trained to address, and neither are they. So we just do our best to help. So with that story being recognized, I think it's important that we focus on delivering the part-time remote internship and offering them flexibility. And of course, this internship needs to be attached to a remuneration. It's only fair to do it or to organize it this way. And fingers crossed, but I think we will be starting already next week with some first internships for males students in Ukraine working remotely for foreign lawyers. Actually, it's an arbitrator that offered that position. So hopefully that will also have the snowball effect and others will follow. And we were also fortunate to get a couple of males that actually managed to flee to safety before the legal regulation came into force, and be able to offer them. They are also as equipped to do the internship as any other candidates, and they reached out to us and we said, we saw no reason why not to include them under the safe harbor umbrella. So we do have a very female group, I must admit. However, if they are candidates, male candidates that want to participate, we do look into that very, very carefully, and we do our best to also help. So yeah, the first guys are out and starting the internships as well. So as Nadiya said, I think gender doesn't play any role whatsoever, but there are some practical limitations on that subject, which we need to recognize and address. But this is just another element of this difficult situation that we as lawyers can deal with.
And Alicia, I have another question for you, actually. Now, imagine, let's take a look at the practical situation here. Now, imagine, a lawyer would like to reach out and would like to offer an internship, but he or she doesn't know whether they can find the right fit as regards the knowledge, as regards the experience. Can they contact, for example, you, or what should they do? And is there any mechanism in place for, to make this match between the need and then the offer?
Mm-hmm. So there are probably two ways that can be done. And picking up on what Galina said, I think just advertising for your own law firm or for your own practice that you are happy to offer a secondment and then accepting candidates to come directly to you, that probably provides you with the greatest flexibility and the possibility to also talk directly with the candidates as soon as they are interested. So that's one of the way. And with social media and LinkedIn post boosting, I think this is just such an easy and no-brainer way to just do it. And what we offer to our students, and that also goes to what Nadiya acknowledged, these are very young students very often, who some of them never traveled abroad. Some of them didn't step their feet in a law firm for a day of practice before. So we felt that we really need to go an extra mile for them. And we did the matchmaking between law firm and the student. So we did take the burden of being this point of contact that decides and sends the students to the safe harbors. I feel that while for students this works because the extra facilitation is actually beneficial, both to navigate for the law firms that often offer more internship than just one. We do have harbors in Düsseldorf, we have 8 students. In Frankfurt, we have 9 students. In Stockholm, we have, as of Friday, tomorrow, 10 students. So these are already groups of people. And we want to be able to coordinate them better. So for the student initiative that really needs more hands-on approach, I feel like facilitation through a point of contact with Patricia and me and Nadiya and Alexander also helping us is important. For senior lawyers and more established practitioners that can navigate this network of arbitration practices more confidently and also tackle the practicalities of living abroad independently, I think the other route directly to the law firms is much better because that can achieve the goal for them much easier, and they do have then the full flexibility to negotiate the term and conditions of the secondment or the employment, or whatever structure they wish to negotiate with the law firm directly. And as for the safe harbors, currently we are moving from kind of like, as we call it, stage 1 to stage 2. So in the stage 1, we address basically the emergencies. So people and students that were still in Ukraine, a number of them in occupied territories. So these were very difficult cases and very important for us to just bring them out of Ukraine and put in safety. Now it seems that more of the applicants are already students that are outside of Ukraine, that are looking for a way forward, how they can advance their studies, matching the remote studies that they can do for their home universities, and doing some career or taking next career step to advance and provide for the progress. So we do have a little bit more time, and we do not have to basically react and basically drive to the border on day 1. So it feels like we will have a little bit more space to do better matching, if we want to call it this way. And we do have kind of a backlog of emails to answer, because there is like a number of law firms offering help, and we always try to get back to them and ask about the terms and conditions and whether the full package, as described by Patricia, is offered. For us and our students, it's important that it's not only the position as such, the internship offered, but we also look to accommodate them, to provide a living stipend, to provide educational opportunities as well. So that's the extra for the students that I feel is very, very important, to kind of provide them with the environment that they can like grow and look to the future. And yeah, that just takes time. So if I haven't answered to any of your emails, please bear with me, I will do so. The interest is great, but I think, and as said by Patricia and Nadiya, we will need more, because once the initial internships are over in a couple of months, some of the students probably will go back home, but for some of them, we will need to continue thinking how to provide opportunities going forward.
Thank you. And a very quick follow-up. Olena, did you want to contribute?
Yeah, just picking up the topic, how to approach the issue, talking about more senior lawyers. And actually, if on a law firm level, the easiest way is just to contact Ukrainian law firms, and to ask if they need such kind of help. On a personal level, you could contact your Ukrainian contacts, and ask if he or she needs or considers such opportunity, or knows who needs or considers such opportunity, and then just to contact, like to connect the dots, or to give them contacts of each other, and that would happen. And so it's quite easy. And with regard to male practitioners, the secondment of male practitioners is possible, even if they are in Ukraine, or some of them are not in Ukraine. But in any case, the foreign law firms should be more flexible with this category, because again, you need to understand that if they are in Ukraine, this does not mean that they are all serving in Ukrainian army. So just a limited portion of them is actually serving, is not able to work as a lawyer, but some other people, male practitioners, are simply waiting, legally waiting for their turn to serve. But this means that this could happen any time. And if they are called, you need to stop your cooperation, and you need to be ready for such a development of the event. But this does not mean that this would ever happen, because we have different for turns and quite detailed procedure. So, but this is something to be taken into account. But again, this is doable. You could overcome these circumstances, and if you wish to help, this would not prevent you from doing that.
Perfect. And as I said, quick follow-up on this one. So, we spoke about law firms and how they can get information, but I also imagine that this video, if not right now, then later on will be watched by some of the lawyers, students. Where can they get the information, whether they qualify, how to qualify, who to contact, and what to do. Can you give some pointers as to for the lawyers who are looking for that information?
For the safe harbors, we do have a website. It's a very simple website. We didn't put kind of much emphasis on developing a fancy, shiny advertisement. So that's not the point, but it works as a point of information where you can basically get the grasp of the ideas and basic pointers of what are the key aims. There is also a dedicated email that you can just drop messages, and we monitor that email to get both the applications as well as the expression of interest to provide internship. So that's important. I will be very happy to also provide the link. I actually don't know how to do it. Do I post it in the chat, or maybe we just post it once the live streaming is available online? We can add it to comments. And I think also for the senior practitioners, LinkedIn has been an amazing platform to source information, and very often the candidates also come from knowing about the initiative from basically social media. Olena, probably you also have some other ideas how to source information.
I think we could add, I mean, if we're talking about safe harbor, we could add this to post-release or some kind of description for the video, just to have it in the right place to visit it. In terms of, again, senior practitioners, this is not centralized. So this could be done, as I told, on different levels, on firm level, on personal level. And if you have no contacts, you could contact me or other Ukrainian arbitration practitioners. I'm sure that they would share contacts of who could be interested in this opportunity.
Maybe one more point, I think quite a lot of work is done also to bar levels, city bars or national bars. So it also makes sense to approach those bars. And one more aspect which I came across, I think this is also an opportunity. Sometimes, perhaps it's not impossible immediately to offer a job, but when you see that there's opportunities for developing skills, offering to develop certain skills, be it English or skills in certain aspects of international law. And I think it's also a matter of directing to the courses, and a lot of these courses are remote. And basically, I think the institutions who offer those courses, since the courses are remote, this is not an extra expense, and they're also very open in offering a limited number of places for the Ukrainian lawyers. So, at least doing something and developing the skills and keeping yourself busy, right? But this is, it's about disseminating information and disseminating ideas.
And we have a question in the chat from Jamie Lennox, who asks, what can law schools and universities in the host countries do to support relocated students? And this is probably goes to Alicia.
Yes, thank you. So far with our students, the tendency is that, and something that we need to recognize, and I think it just merits me saying that, these are Ukrainian law students who wants to graduate in their own country, as simply as that. And as we are not a Ukrainian lawyers, but for Olena, we cannot deliver on that promise to educate them in the Ukrainian law that they need to complete their degree on. So there seems to be very little shortcuts to that at the present, but the good news is that a number of the departments of Ukrainian universities will be offering online courses, and the students already started. So this is continuing, and there is a great expectation and great chance, and it looks very feasible that they will be able to progress their studies working remotely and even graduate. So then the question is what do we do at the next stage? And I think this is where it comes for us to think about what we can offer on top of the undergraduate or postgraduate education in their home countries. And already a number of universities in Europe offered the Ukrainian students to undertake courses with the law school. However, the problem currently at the European Union level, as I understand, is that the students cannot be admitted mid-year, circumventing the regular admission process. So unless the students do meet the criteria for admissions, this is becoming problematic. Still, a number of law schools and universities offered to open the courses and do them on like an exchange basis, or just as a certification courses. So you do not get university degree when completing that course, but you still get a recognition, and you can like kind of earn the points that are needed to advance your studies. So for personal and educational purposes, there are many initiatives that are happening, but if it comes to a full law degree launch from abroad, this still seems to be unfixable at present. But the question is like, does it really need to be fixed if the young Ukrainian law students actually want to graduate in Ukraine and get and earn their first degree there? The other issue is the LLM, or the postgraduate education. And here, of course, the private and the public universities do have offerings, and Ukrainians, as any other nationalities, can apply, and a number of universities did offer a certain extension of applications deadline to accommodate the war in Ukraine and to enable candidates to apply post deadline. So there are things moving, but I think they are very individual, and someone will have to do like a little bit of research to get a better understanding what is offered where. But as a matter of feedback from our Ukrainian students participating in the Safe Harbor, the ones who are in their final years, they basically all submitted numerous applications for LLMs and scholarships that are needed to pursue this LLM. And I mean, so far it looks very optimistic. They receive a fantastic feedback. So I think there is a much goodwill and lots of opportunities. And I think it's up to the students to do a little bit of research and us to help to guide them to that opportunities.
I would fully agree, Alicia. This is a very full answer, and I think the universities, what they are doing, again, I cannot speak, like on behalf of many universities, but I see that we're trying to understand the credit point system, like which credit points can be taken, accepted from Ukrainian universities. So whether with those credit points and additional ones which can be taken until the end of the academic year, people can graduate actually, or maybe some extra time will be needed. But again, I see a massive effort done by the universities, which is impressive, right? Trying to accommodate young, both students and young researchers. So again, I would only back what Alicia has said. I think like this is very much from the students to contact the universities, or sometimes to contact the national center for a particular study of law, because in some countries and for some disciplines, it's not the university individually who decide whether to accept or not to accept the student, but there is already a system of accepting the students, and then within the country and across the different universities, the acceptance, there is a choice. So where the student goes.
As a practical consideration, I know, for instance, some law schools, the application process, they require issuing of hard copies of documents, sometimes signed by someone from university and so on. Getting those documents has been very difficult and time-consuming, even without the war, for the students who went through applications. But now, for instance, for people who had to leave, some of the students don't have their diplomas on hand. Some of the students, their universities might be destroyed. That's really the case here. So I would suggest, if the application process is still open, maybe there is a way to sort of simplify the requirements to application documents for Ukrainians, for example, to allow them to submit not hard copies, but scans of their diplomas or something like that. Again, not to I'm not saying to ditch completely the application process, but maybe make it more friendly to those people who might not have all the documents on hand, or might not have a chance to get some signatures, so mail them from Ukrainian university.
And I think it's really important to also announce more information about scholarships. And I think Nadiya will agree that, as Ukrainian student, actually paying for your studies somewhere like in London, that's a huge ask of anyone especially in Eastern Europe. And just giving them that comfort, the students, that comfort that, look, we understand. And if you will come here, we will provide you the necessary funding for the housing. You will not have to pay for the studies, or at least given more information about the criteria and how many students do you accept. I think that's a huge step forward. Now, I can see that we've approached and we've passed the 90-minute mark that we had aligned for this event. And I know that we could speak about these issues for a very long time, but I'm also conscious that our esteemed speakers, they have other commitments. And what I would like to do is I would like to invite everyone who's watching at their home to thank the speakers with the virtual applause. And we're hoping that this was really useful, and this shed more light on what you can do to help. And if you're looking for that help, where you can find that help. So if you have any further questions, then obviously once the video will be published, there will be information about the contact information, or you can contact the persons responsible for more information. We're hoping that you will extend more help to the students and lawyers in need. And with that in mind, we thank you and we wish you wonderful Easter, which is coming up, and obviously the very wonderful evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Denis, for your invitation.
Thank you.
And for
Thank you very much.
interesting seminar. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.